G'day, Ben from Duck Playing Chicken here with the second video in this build series of the Aoshima Road Ranger 1/48 scale from the movie Techno Police 21C. Before I get into the paints that I'm going to use to paint this kit, there is some stuff I've done between sort of now and the previous video. And a lot of it is just sort of joining pieces together and filling up the gaps. So these are parts for the sort of rear trailer part that one of the robots hangs onto. So the fit of these things is not flash, so it is going to take a little bit of work to clean them up. And the little siren thing is certainly got some serious stepping, so it's going to take some sanding and some puttying to clean that up. Also on these side pieces, they sort of glue onto these bits go on the back. So again, Mr. Surfacer 500 just to putty in those gaps, and I'll sand all that down. That's sort of what I've been doing off screen. Now to get to the colours, everything is going to get a primer coat. So depending on the colour, the base colour, I'll use either Surfacer Grey or Surfacer Black. I will be using Surfacer Grey for all the areas that are white. I just find it easier to work out where the white is and what the coverage is like with a grey primer coat. The other thing is with the body parts, I will be sanding these. So for every sort of coat I put down, I will be sanding it with a very fine grit 8000 grit sanding sponge. So this will take off all the sort of bits of dust and stuff that inevitably ends up on your paint job, you know, when you're in the spray booth. So this will help keep the surface nice and smooth. And it's just something I'll be sort of focusing on for the body parts, more so than some of the other pieces. So once everything gets a primer coat, talking about the colours I'm going to use, the call out, they refer to Mr. Colour paints, and there's a couple of things I'm going to do differently from the call out. So they've sort of got the wheels and the side pipes as grey, but I'll be doing them in sort of a metallic chrome colour. But I think everything else I'll keep fairly similar. There'll be a few differences with the interior as well. So for the white, I am going to use SMS white. The red accent colours along the sides, I'm using SMS red. For the blue, for this part here, the light sort of bracket, I'll be using Outlaw Paints Bright Blue. So this is similar to the SMS in the fact that it's a lacquer paint that goes straight into the airbrush. For the metallic parts, I'll be using Hyperchrome Cold Tone. For the underside of the vehicle, I'll be using Camo Black. The seats are sort of a brown leather colour, so for that I'll be using German Red Brown, and I'll probably do some hand brushing as well to sort of detail that up a little bit. Now for the interior, they've sort of got it all one colour. I will do a little bit of detail on the inside with the door cards and that sort of thing, but for most of it I'll be using blue grey. And then for the dashboard, I'm going to do in a slightly darker colour, so I'm going to use Gunship Grey for that. Oh, before I forget, one other thing I've done is these struts which hold up the two pieces on the back, you know, so they sort of fold up and fold down again. I've actually glued these sort of together. They do run along the rails, but it's pretty tight, so I just thought it was going to be better to sort of get these in place, and then I can sort of spray all this, you know, one colour. But I suspect I'm going to have to do some repair on these things before the job's finished. These seem very fragile and very kind of temperamental. To quickly show you some of the other stuff that I've done, I've masked off this little black area at the front here. It's just so that you know, it's indicated as black. I've also masked off the intake there just with a bit of blue tack. Stuck on the wing mirrors So now I'll sort of give that all a uniform coat. The figures are made up of the body piece and then the two arms are separate. So I've glued them in place. A little bit of putty on the back required for an ejector pin mark. So I'll need to sort of sand that off. The other thing with the Ken figure is that the gun is a separate piece, so I'll need to glue that in place. Recommend gluing it in before painting it. For blader, again, the body and the legs are sort of one piece, and then the two arms are separate. There are some little half dome pieces on the side of his hips here, which with the sanding I lost that detail, but I've got a way that I can put that back in, so when I get around to that I'll show that off. The back piece here, the trailer piece, I've had to sort of glue it all together and putty it as I go. So the seams here are pretty nasty and it just took quite a bit of putty. You can sort of see the bits that I've sanded, so there are some big gaps there, but it's a lot better to assemble it all so that it's sort of the parts are moving and working the way they should, and that way when I sort of sand it all, give it a paint, it'll look reasonably uniform and still have the working action. I'm going to start masking up the windscreen, and to do that I'm just going to use a small piece of tape that I have cut up here and just lay them down. There's a reasonably good line that delineates the frame around the windscreen, but I think I'm going to just use a piece of tape as opposed to try and run a knife around it. Okay, so I'll go ahead and wrap the tape pieces all the way around. I've finished masking the windscreen, so I've done it both sides so that there'll be a white surround on both the front and the rear of the screen. And this just glues under the front of the body, so I think I'll have to use some white glue for that so that it doesn't, affect the clear plastic. Now for the tub where the seats go, I want to do a bit of experimentation with flocking. It's not something I've actually done before, so I've sort of done a bit of research into the different methods people use, and what I've ended up with, this is a test piece here, but you can see that it's sort of looks carpety. It's reasonably flat, and it's got enough inconsistency in it to make it look at least a little bit natural. So this is going to be an experiment. It might look rubbish, and it doesn't matter if it does because you're hardly going to see it, but I want to experiment and sort of see if I can get a method that works in preparation for another build I want to do. So I've got the tub here, and for the actual flocking, I'm not going to use proper flock. I'm actually going to use this stuff, which is embossing powder. And yes, it's a lovely pink. It doesn't matter what color it is because you're going to paint over it. And this is just really fine sort of powder, so you can sort of get an idea what it's like. You can get this stuff in most crafting shops. I'm not sure how it works, but it allows you to basically stick it to the paper, and then you can create like an embossed effect. So that's what I'm using for this. This stuff gets everywhere, so you really want to make sure that you've got like a box or something to kind of contain it in. So that's what I'm going to use. Now, as far as attaching it goes, I've seen lots of people use lots of different things like enamel paint or white glue. Now, I'm going to use Mod Podge, so it doesn't matter if it's matte or gloss, I don't think, but I'm just using the matte stuff. I'm just using a flat brush. The main thing is to try and get this stuff as flat as possible to the surface, because as the powder sticks to it, any lumps or bumps you have, it will show up. Now I did experiment with sort of watering it down as well, but I found it didn't stick as well. So I'm trying to get as flat surface as possible, keeping paint or keeping the stuff pretty thin on the surface, and then I'm literally going to just sprinkle this stuff on and absolutely smother it on. Now we have nice pink sparkly carpet. Now the other thing that I'm going to do is just very carefully sort of tamp it down. So I'm just going to use an ice cream stick here, and I'm just going to squash it in place just so that it properly adheres to all areas where the Mod Podge is underneath. And as I sort of sprinkle it off or tap it off, and just do that carefully. Just give me a light tap. Okay, but you can see, and of course with this stuff being pink, it actually makes it nice and easy for you to see on camera where it's actually stuck to. Now those 3 blocks, you can see that's where the seat's attached to, but that's fine. I'll I might scrape scrape some of this stuff away once it's dry to allow for the glue to work on the seats. That's basically the process. So I'll leave that to dry a good amount of time, and I'll leave it in this box. Leave all the mess contained in this box for now, so that once I've got rid of the excess, I can put it back and use the rest of it another time. So I've given everything a primer coat, well, most of it anyway, and I started off with the black for the wheels. So because these are chrome, I gave them black primer coat. For the body, giving that just another coat of grey, and I will be, like I already mentioned, be using the 8000 grit sanding sponge to sand that down just to smooth it off a bit, ready for the base coat. For the rear piece, I have masked off the exhausts with a bit of blue tack, so that's that what you can see there. And for the interior tub, the carpet, it actually came up pretty well once a primer coat went on it. It looks a little bit inconsistent in places, but you know, that's fine. It's maybe a little bit out of scale. Maybe it's a deeper pile carpet, but hey, it was the 80s, so that would kind of make sense. I scraped off those areas where the seats will attach, so at least there's sort of a better anchor for the seats to be glued to. For the side pipe piece, this little bit I've primed here in grey, that's actually going to be white, so I'll get that all sorted before I paint the rest of it, because the rest of it's going to be chrome. And here's the back trailer part, which has come up all right after a primer coat, so it still moves the way it's supposed to. Of course, a bit tricky to actually paint because it tends to flap around on the painting clip, but I think it was worth doing the way that I did. It's come up a lot better than having those really awful seams throughout it. For these rear pieces, I have to paint them one side at a time. And I also blue tack this little square area in here. This is where the struts attach to. So just so I get a better glue joint, I have masked those off. And for the rear piece, you can see I've also put some blue tack on the top of the struts. Again, that's about promoting the glue, setting properly and attaching to the other plastic. I am really worried about how this is going to work. With a coat of paint on, the struts have tightened up quite a bit on those rails. So yeah, we'll wait and see how that goes. Okay, you can see I've put down some paint the interior tub looks similar to the grey primer, but trust me, it is a different colour. So again, I'm pretty happy with the way the carpets come up, the flocking there. I just want to do a little bit of detail painting just on the door handles here. By the time the seats get put in place, there's not going to be a lot to see, but just a little bit of detail, and I'm going to use some enamel, Tamiya enamel chrome silver, just to give it a little bit of extra interest. And of course, no one's going to really notice this except for me. Alright, let's try and run the brush along the side of these edges here, these little raised edges. So I'm just keeping the brush, you know, horizontal to that raised edge. Hard to see, but doesn't look too bad. Okay, put that to the side. Now for the these are the wheels that go on the back, sort of small. It's almost like a little golf cart thing that the one of the robots hangs off. So these aren't sort of rubber wheels; they're just all one plastic piece. So I painted the chrome for the wheels, but for the tyres, I'm going to use some XF1 flat black. Again, use an enamel product. And that way, if I make a mistake, it's not going to be that much of a problem to fix. Okay, so I'm going to take a larger brush. And you get the idea. So I'm going to go away, and there's two of these wheels, so I'll go away and get both of them painted. Alright, to give the seats a little bit more interest, I'm going to do a bit of a wash over them, and I'm going to use Aoshima Mecha Color Brown. I've got just a ceramic tile here. I'm going to start off with some airbrush thinner and put a little bit of that down, splash of that, and then a couple of drops of the brown. Take a brush, mix it in a little bit so it's nice and thin. So I mean, this is no different to sort of just using a like an enamel wash. That interesting behaviour of the obviously the surface tension playing havoc with the thinner and the paint. All right. Let's move that to the side because that's a bit of a distraction, isn't it? And then I'm going to just tap it into the gaps. It's going to be pretty rough. But I'm going to go over it with a cotton bud afterwards just to clean it up anyway. It's just to make sure the seats aren't sort of completely monotonous, you know, the one colour. Also going to, when I go to clean it up, it'll add just a little bit of texture to it as well, because I imagine that these would have been, you know, leather seats or leather-like. So while it's still wet, I'm just going to go in there with a cotton bud and just sort of dab away the excess, but at the same time it's sort of creating at least a little bit of texture around the edges as well. Because of course, normally, you know, especially after a bit of wear and tear, leather isn't sort of a continuous or a consistent colour. That's what that sort of looks like. While I had the enamel paints out, I did a bit more detail painting on the dashboard. I want to basically get all that detail painting done before I worry about the lighting of those screens. So the colours that I used, you can see it's predominantly sort of white and red, and just a little bit of black on the gear stick there. So I again used Tamiya enamels, XF2 flat white and XF7 flat red, and for gear stick XF1 flat black. I also did some detail painting on the steering wheel. It's a little bit hard to see, but there's actually the brown on the ring there. I've left the middle part black, and so I did that using XF10 flat brown. I did actually film me painting this, but my fat head was in the way all the time, so sorry about that, but it's basically just dabbing a little bit of paint. The raised detail on the dashboard is really nice. It's quite high, so if you go sort of you know, take your time with it, it's not actually that difficult to sort of paint those detail buttons. I'll take you through some of the initial painting that I've done. I've painted red down the sides. So I had the grey primer. I actually sprayed a bit of white before I sprayed the red, because red's sort of really transparent and I wanted it quite bright. So I've done that on both sides. Next step is to I'll give it a light sand just so it's super smooth, and then I'll mask it off ready for the white for the rest of the body. As far as the white goes, here's the windscreen with the whites around. I've done that in the back as well. So I'll give that a gloss coat. The blue for the light bar has come up really nice. So again, that's sort of ready for a gloss coat. The wheels I use the chrome for, and I'm going to do an enamel wash in there just for those details, to bring out those middle details there. But of course the rubber tyres go over the top of those. For these pieces, which are the pieces on the back that lift up, I've painted the grey in there over the top of the grey primer, so it doesn't look that different, but it is. I've also given this a matte coat, because what I'll do is I'll mask all this off ready to paint the back bit. Now this side actually gets painted red and the rest of it gets painted white. Again, with the back pieces, this is the dark grey. I may do a little bit of detail painting on these struts. I'm not sure if it's really worth it. Kind of fragile. I don't really want to touch them any more than I have to. And finally, for the the underside parts, the camo black, it's come up reasonably nice, and I think I might do a bit of just a very light dry brush over that. I'm just starting to mask the red area. I've obviously put the red down. I've also sanded it with a light, the 8000 grit sanding sponge, so just a very light sand. Thankfully I didn't get too many sort of bits of dust and that on it, so it didn't need a lot of cleanup. Now it's a matter of trying to get a nice clean edge. Right. So you get the idea. Now the wheel flares, they're actually white, so I need to sort of mask around them, and yeah, the rest will be the red. Okay, I'll go ahead and do the rest of it. So I've finished off masking the red areas on the body. Pretty straightforward. The only tricky bit is this little bit where the siren sort of hangs off. So just masked around that. Some other masking I've done is around these back pieces as well. So where I painted the grey, all the rest of this will be white, and this panel here will be red. So I'll put a little bit of white down and then spray the red, mask that off, and then do all the white. It's just sort of layers of masking, you know, masking, painting, usual story. Okay, now the seats have had time to dry. Look a bit more like distressed leather now. I can glue these in place. So I'll just using a bit of the Revell contactor cement. Put a little bit here on the brackets. Looks a lot tighter in the model than what it does in the film, as far as you know, everyone's sitting on top of each other. Make sure they are straight. Alright, so there we go. Complete with carpet that no one will ever see. But that's alright, at least I know it's there. I've just done a bit of an enamel wash in the wheels, just to bring out some of those details. Nothing special there, and of course for that I just used Panel Line Accent Colour Black by Tamiya. This is a little bit that sort of goes on the back of the small trailer bit. I've just added a bit of enamel wash there as well. So just getting some of the sub-assemblies sort of finished off. The rubber tyres, they do actually have a front and back, I guess. So you can see on this side there's no writing, but on this side there is. So that needs to point outwards, and the wheels just slot into the tyres like that. Now you could probably, you know, put some white on those letters. I'm not a big fan of that. Actually I prefer just the straight rubber look. All these wheels just go on like this, so it's nice and easy. They're a good snug fit, but they go on easily enough. I'm really surprised at the quality of these tyres given the age of the kit. So it must be good quality rubber they're using, or vinyl, or whatever they are. There we go, 6 wheels done. Looking at the dashboard, I want to put some graphics in on the screen, so you can see a couple here I've done here. It's a bit hard to see because I've already done the gloss in there, but I'll show you how I've gone about that. Yeah, there's like little bits of detail on the screens, and what I've done is I've just used they're actually custom decals I use for a different project. I've just cut them out and stuck them in on the back. So nice simple process. These are the decals, custom decals I did for one of my lacrosse builds. And so it was just a series of sort of computer screens that I did, and I just put out little sections of them to fit within the area for the screens on the dashboard. Okay, so to put the graphics in place, I hold the dashboard down with a little bit of blue tack. I've pre-cut one of the little graphics out to make sure it fits, and then I can sort of drop that in place over the hole where the screen needs to show through. So once I've got it lined up, I use this Testors clear part cement, and this means it'll dry clear if there's any bleed through onto the other side, which inevitably there will be, and I just add a few drops in to sort of hold it in place. And once that's sort of set up to dry, I can then worry about the glossy look I want on the other side. I just spread the glue around, position the graphic properly, and then let it dry. Okay, so with the white, multiple coats I've done, I do a sand in between them because I do get flecks of dust in there, so I just use an 8000 grit sanding sponge in between every coat just to sand it down, ready for the gloss coat. As with any painting project, it's always about the preparation, gives you the best finish. This kit's a little bit tricky. It has a few corners and stuff that's a little bit tricky to get into with a sanding sponge, but I think it'll be fine. For the blue light bar, I'll put a gloss coat over that, so you can see that needs a little bit of a sand, and then I'll put another gloss coat over the top. So see how smooth we can get it. For the side pipes, I'm going to mask off that little white area, and then the rest of it I'll paint black and then do a chrome over the top of it. The windscreen, I'll paint it white. It's got the gloss over the top, so now it's time to unmask it. And you'll notice that when I'm unmasking it, I am using metal tweezers, so you've got to be really careful if you're doing the same as me. Don't want to scratch the glass. And so it's just about carefully lifting that tape off on both sides just to see what the results are. Reasonably happy with the results. Hasn't come up too bad. There's no sort of major overspray areas or anything like that. So I think it'll be certainly fit for purpose. I should try and get it in shot, shouldn't I? Come on, move it over. There we go. Just a bit of progress on the painting. Start with the main body. I've unmasked the red. I'm pretty happy with that. It's come up pretty well, I think. Pretty sharp lines. Now I've done multiple layers of the white. White is, notoriously transparent, so any kind of colour underneath will kind of bleed through. So I've done several coats of white, and now I'm ready to do some gloss on that. And for that, I'll be just using SMS Clear Gloss. And for this, I'll be doing multiple coats. I'll do a coat, let it dry for 24 hours, give it a really light sand with 8000 grit sanding sponge, then another coat, same process over and over again. And what you end up with is something that sort of looks like this. It's not, I want the light to sort of catch it, it's not super high gloss like it's, but you can sort of see that there's definitely a sheen there. So that's sort of what I'm going for. For these rear bits, these are sort of the last bits of white I have to paint, so I will do a grey over the red, because like I said, with the white's transparent, so if there's any red underneath, that will come through and you'll get a slight pink tinge to the white. So I'll do a grey primer over the top of this, and then multiple coats of the white. And that should be the last of the sort of body painting, and then it'll be sort of all about the multiple layers of gloss, sand, gloss, sand, gloss, etc. Okay, I've stuck in all the bits of paper from the back there to fill in the screens. Now I'll show you how I did the glossy bit, so you can sort of see those ones are glossy. They're not particularly smooth, but that's all right. So this one here, you can see there's a little bit around the edge there, but all I do is I take this Testors clear part cement, I literally take a dollop and just squeeze it in there. You may have to get a toothpick just to break up the surface tension when it sticks to a particular area. And so basically like that, and that'll just give it a bit of a glossy sheen, so that when you're looking down on it you can tell that's a computer screen. Now what I'll do is I will use some clips just to hold this in place, so hold it level, so that way the white glue sort of sits in place and doesn't end up all on one side. Alright, with the gloss down on all the main body parts, I can start doing some unmasking. Look at this little intake on the front. Of course, after multiple layers of paint, a little bit tricky to remove the masking, but doesn't look too bad. There's also this little black area in here, which is going to prove to be difficult to remove. And of course I left this matte just to give it a little bit of contrast with the gloss body. Not bad at all. I've already unmasked the red here on these back pieces, just because obviously I need to get the gloss down on all of the top side of it, but let's have a look at the masking underneath and see how that went. Usually I find my issues with masking are all around compound curves, so usually straight edge, it's usually straightforward to mask, but compound curves are always the nasty ones, I reckon. Yeah, that's fine, I think. got this bit under here, which of course will be where these struts are glued in place. So by keeping the paint out of it, it means there should be a better adhesion for the glue. These ones, we've got the lights and the exhaust pipes. These masks are glued down good with the layers of paint. There we go. Okay, far from perfect, but not too bad. That's all right. I did unmask this one, and I've also done some panel lining on it. So I'll show you in a minute how I do the panel lining on the rest. These are going to be far from perfect once they're lit up, I think, but it's all right. It is what it is. Tried my best. It's all I can ask of myself. All right, so I think that's it for the unmasking. There are a couple of other bits I sort of unmasked off camera, like the white on the side pipes here. But what I want to do is talk about panel lining. So for this kit, I'm going to be using panel line accent color black by Tamiya, and nothing new here. It's using capillary action to allow the enamel paint to wick. This one will take a little bit of gravity for it to work. Problem is, because a lot of these panel lines have got layers and layers of paint and gloss in them, the enamel is not going to flow as well. Okay, so just a little bit in here. I do have to do a little bit of detail painting, like on the number plates, and also for the wing mirrors. Yeah, a lot of these panel lines are very shallow now. Alright, I'll go ahead and get the rest of the panel lining done, and once that's dry, I'll show you the process for the cleanup. Okay, the panel line wash I've given a good day to dry. It is on a highly glossy surface, so it will take a while to sort of dry, reasonably well enough to clean up effectively. So to clean it up, I use shellite, but you can use enamel thinner. It'll do exactly the same thing. I've just decanted a bit of this stuff in a separate jar. Take the cotton bud, dab off the excess, and then run it across the panel line, and you can see those little blobs that I left when I was applying it disappear. Okay, so it tidies it up beautifully. Very little cleanup required. So I'm going to go ahead and clean up the rest of the parts, and we can move on to the next step. Okay, I've been looking at how to light the screens on the dashboard. So of course I've already stuck the designs just printed on paper in the back there, and I want to get a bit of light coming through. So what I've done is I've written a bit of code in the Arduino, and I'm going to use some of this, which is basically LED strip, but it's a little bit unique in the fact that it's really dense. So it's 300 LEDs per meter, and these are addressable RGB LEDs. So WS2812, that's the addressable model of the LEDs that are on the strip. The 2020, so they're quite small and they run off 5 volts, which makes them perfect for an Arduino application. I've got 2 just yellow LEDs here. Think of these in terms of the lights for the overhead light bar. So for this thing, I'm not really going to wire this up. I just use some temporary LEDs. So plug this in, and we should be able to see these two yellow lights alternate. And then we have this, which is the LED strip, which is maybe, I won't hold it directly on the camera, but you can see how they're sort of fading in and out randomly, you know, different ones sort of moving across. And if I put this, try to put it behind here, so you can see how those screens sort of light up, you know, and it's like a little bit random how they light up. But it's kind of a nice little effect. I mean, it's not groundbreaking stuff. It's all sort of pretty simple, but I think that's the way I'll go. So what I'll end up doing is I need to attach this light strip to the back of the dashboard here, and I think for that I'll probably just use a bit of UV resin. I'll do it off camera just because I need to have my head right over it when I do it. But it'll basically be, I'll tack it down on one end with a bit of resin, tack it down on the other end with another bit of resin, and then I'll flood the whole lot with resin. And then once I've got that resin sort of coating in place, I can then light block the whole lot just using some black fabric paint. Okay, I've set the LED strip in using quite a bit of UV resin, and you can see I've got a lot of light leak. But if we have a look at try to sort of cover up as much of that light bleed as I can, you can see the screens don't look too bad. You know, it's like there's something happening on them, so that's worked out pretty well. So what I need to do is light block all of this, because the resin sort of serves two purposes in the fact that it sticks the LED strip in place, but it also works as a light pipe. So anywhere where the resin is sort of poking out, there will be light bleed. So to cover all that up, I'm going to use some fabric paint. It's just black tulip. I'm actually going to do this while it's on, so I can see where the leaks are. We need a clip to hold this. You can see I'm putting quite a bit on there, but that's just so I can sort of move it around and cover up every little bit of light leak I can see. Alright, I think that just about does it. You still see those screens all lighting up. Pretty happy with that actually. It's come up better than I sort of expected it would. The final bit of sort of painting I have to do on the vehicle, it's just a little bit of dry brushing on some of these black pieces. I just want to highlight sort of some of the detail. So for that I'm going to use a medium grey by in their Mecha colour range, and I'm going to use a makeup brush, and I'll just put a bit down on the palette here on the tile, brush most of it off on the paper towel, and then just run it across. It's pretty subtle, but what it does is it helps to bring out sort of some of the detail, especially on that tread plate there. So you can see that pattern is sort of highlighted a bit more. Do a little bit on the bottom as well. These makeup brushes aren't really great. The hairs keep coming out of them, but they're fine for dry brushing. A little bit on the bottom here. So I've been thinking about how to actually get power to all the lighting I'm doing in the vehicle, and I've decided that I'm going to have a line running out from underneath the car into a base. So I could hardwire it, I could sort of stick it down to a base, but I'm not really a fan of doing that, just because if I ever need to move it or whatever, it's just easier if I can separate the base and the car. So I'm going to use something that I've used before, which are these magnetic pogo pins. So these are, you know, typically you might find them on charging a device or whatever, but they're magnetic. And so what I want to do is have one of these in the bottom of the car, and then the other half of it sort of poking up from the base. So that way I can just take the car off and plonk it back on, just magnetically joined. I've found that these things are really reliable. So as long as you get that good magnetic sort of catch action, they're really good like that. So I've got to work out where I want to put it in the car, and I've sort of been thinking about it. The main issue is the back part of the car should move. It actually slides out from the front part. So I need to really work out where I want to put it. And I think I'm going to actually do it in the front. So I think it's going to be somewhere in here, but I need to actually get the front wheels in place, because there's a bit of gubbin sort of happening in here that I need to sort out before I work out where I want to put the pogo pin. I think it's going to be sort of here somewhere. The vehicle will sit pretty low to the ground, so it's not like it's really going to be seen that much. And you know what, if people do notice it, that's fine. It doesn't really bother me that much. But once you get the sort of cockpit or the, you know, the seats in and the dashboard and everything, it starts getting pretty tight in there. So this is really the only sort of space where I reckon I could fit the Arduino and all the wiring and what have you. So in order to do that, I need to basically assemble the front wheels, and to do that, it's basically, let's take these, and this is where these little pins come in. This is where you're supposed to use a hammer. I don't know if I really want to use a hammer, but we'll see how we go, just push fitting them. So I can get that in there. Just want to make sure I've got this around the right way. Now it looks like you can just push them in by hand. It takes a little bit of force, but it's not too bad. You certainly don't need a hammer. The instructions, I've got to say, the instructions are fine, but they don't sort of show what the finished, you know, sub-assembly should necessarily look like in a lot of detail. So if I show this here, so there's this cross member here which sort of attaches to you know, the wheels, and it sort of goes under the slot, in that slot there, but it'd be nice if they actually showed what it finished off. So there's this little tab here, and that corresponds with these little teeth on this cross member. So you should sort of go in like so, and then that'll allow you to sort of move the wheels and sort of lock them in a, you know, a particular position. I suspect that's come from the fact that there is a motorized version of this kit. So what I envisage you would have done is you would have set up the motor, and you would have set the wheel so it was going to go in a circle, and then you just turn it on and let it go. So I think that's sort of where this particular bit's come from. But because this cross member goes in here, I need to work out where I need to put the magnetic pogo pin without it sort of interfering with the steering. So let's see, here we go here. Need to, I reckon, if we get this one in, we can get that sort of in place first. I'm sort of flying by the seat of my pants here. No, that's not going to work. I reckon this is going to be tricky to sort of line everything up. I hope I go the right way. Okay. I don't know if I may have to drill these holes out a little bit, maybe. No, it sits in there. That's all right. Can I get that in place? Here's the question. Oh, it's tight. Yes, I'm wondering if there's an easier way of doing this, but I don't think there is. Okay, and then I need to make sure I get the other one the right way around. So that will go like that. Yep, that one pushed in a lot easier. So you definitely don't need to go medieval on it and you know, get the hammer out, luckily. Okay, so I'll turn that out. Oh, now it's come off both of them. Yeah, I'm going to try and lever this over the top. Yeah, and of course the other one's popped out. Wind up. Nothing's going to sort of stay in place long enough for me to get it all lined up, because basically what happens is I need to get this in place. Maybe it might help if I get part of it in place. Going to. Okay. So I'm definitely going to need some glue in there, I think. But if I can sort of just hold one of them in place. Yeah. Wow, that's fiddly. Right, I'm going to try getting this piece in place. Maybe that's the way to go. So I've got this sort of U member in place, and go. Try and get this in. Make sure I've got it the right way. Yeah. Oh boy. Oh boy. Alright. Yeah, I think it's definitely easier getting this U piece in place. Yeah. Try and maneuver this one. Wow. Is it worth me gluing that in place? Come on, come on. Look there. Oh, I think I've got it. Nobody breathe. Nobody breathe. Have I got it? Nope. It's not in the right spot. Yeah, I think the problem is this bracket around here needs to be firmly glued down before I even start to attempt to try and turn the wheels. So I think I'm going to have to glue that in place and hope everything sort of stays. It does work as long as I sort of hold it down. You can see and you can hear that click. So it is working on that this bit here. Now, I was going to leave all the assembly until sort of the next video, but I think in this instance, I'm actually going to glue that in place because I really don't want to go down the path of trying to do that again. Alright, so while that's drying, out. Yeah, I think it'll probably go just in this front bit here. Yeah, I've got a little bit of room at the front of that cross member there, so I reckon that's probably where I'll end up putting it. It'd be nice to have it sort of a bit further back, like somewhere here, but I don't know. I'll have to check again where the seats sit and the floor, because I really don't want it to sort of be that visible if you're looking around the model kit. But for now, I'm going to let that dry. So after a lot of procrastination, I have decided that the connector socket, the magnetic pogo pin for the lead going out, will actually go here. I think I've worked out that you're not actually going to see that much once the dashboard's in place, and also once the seats and everything are set in. So I think I'll put it here, and the reason for that is it's nice and flat here. I don't want it on an angle, and if you're looking at it from the front, you do see a little bit of this, the front of this panel here. So if I put it behind that, it's not going to be as noticeable. Just another note about the steering on this. So it works, it does click into place, and the steering sort of works fine. However, if you had the motorized version of this kit, I think it would come a cropper pretty quick. And the reason for that is, as soon as you put some weight on this thing, the wheels are actually they actually touch the inside of the wheel well here. And it's even worse if you go full lock. I don't know if you can see that wheel is right up against that wheel well, so it's not going to roll too well. So I reckon that would have caused a few tears when some kids put that together, threw a motor in it, some batteries, and let it go. But anyway, it doesn't matter for what I'm doing because it's going to be posed. It's not going to be moving around. So I've made that decision. I've also done a little bit of hand painting of some areas. So for the mirrors, mirror glass, I just use some enamel Tamiya X11 chrome silver. And I use the same silver on these little side lights here. There's a little bit on the front and these little ticks on the side. So in all the, in the movie itself, they're actually yellow. So I've done the silver first, and I'll go over it with a clear yellow, make it look like yellow marker lights. The other thing I've done is I've cut down the fiber optics for the headlights, and I ended up using a grinding tool just to grind them down a little bit because I couldn't get the nippers in there flush to to cut them as close to the edge as possible. So I went in there with a grinder, but that looks okay. It's a little bit rough. They actually look better when they're lit up. So yeah, a little bit of detail painting. I was going to detail paint the number plate, but I don't think I'll bother. I did a bit of an enamel wash in there just to sort of bring out the letters a little bit, and I think that's fine. I think it's just going to look too messy if I try to brush paint the numbers and letters in. So apart from the clear yellow that I have to do on the marker lights and everything, I think we're there as far as the painting of the vehicle. Of course, I haven't touched the figures yet. Okay, painting of all the vehicle parts is now complete, thankfully. I just finished off the body with a little bit of clear yellow just on the silver components there, the side indicator lights, also a little bit near the headlights. And for that, I just used Tamiya X24 clear yellow, just brush painted that on. But everything else is ready to go. I still haven't done the figures, so they're still just primed. I'll do that in the next video. And I'm pretty excited about finally getting this kit together. I'm going to finish up this video here just because it's been going on for quite some time. So until next video, I'll catch you later.